I'm going to be giving you my 10 hottest Pokemon takes, and what your job is going to be rating each of them to see if I cooked or I burnt the freaking pancake. If you guys decide that I've cooked with at least 7 out of my 10 takes, that means I get the badge of a proper chef. But if you guys decide that I didn't cook at least 7 hot takes, then that means I don't get the badge and I'm just a horrible chef. Also, subscribe if you like food, because I think food's pretty good. Anyways, my name is Pokey, and here are my top 10 hottest Pokemon takes. Now, what better way to start this list off than to give you guys my favorite starter Pokemon of all time? And in fact, this is also my favorite Pokemon of all time, not just my favorite starter. So, my favorite starter Pokemon of all time, if you watch my videos, you'll know it is Greninja. Now, whether you think Greninja is overrated or not, it's not going to change my opinion on my favorite Pokemon of all time, so I don't really care. But mainly the reason I want to share this is because Greninja is what actually got me into Pokemon. So I actually got through Pokemon because of the card games, but then I really witnessed like true good Pokemon when I watched the Pokemon XYZ series. And when I did, and I saw the very first Ash Greninja transformation in the Ninja Village, I remember it vividly. It was so peak seeing a Ninja Frog with a giant water shuriken on its back with a veil of water. I mean, like, how could you not like this Pokemon? But just as I have my own opinion, you guys have yours, which I guess doesn't matter in this case because you guys are judging me, so yeah. But now moving on to my second hottest Pokemon take. Now the first one is a little bit just like testing the waters, you know, but this one might get me flamed, I'm not gonna lie. For my second hottest Pokemon take, I think that Terras are the worst gimmick out of all 4 gimmicks in the Pokemon franchise. For starters, I think Dynamax is the best gimmick for competitive use. It was counterable, plus Protect and Map Block, stuff like that could still reduce most of the damage taken by Dynamax Pokemon. But by far the most broken gimmicks were definitely Z-moves and Megas. The fact that you could just use Z Happy Hour, get a +1 on all stats, Evo boost, and on top of all that, there are Z-moves that could reduce, like, take away all the status effects on your current Pokemon. All the negative ones, that is. And it was so broken. Now, Terras were their attempt to actually make something like Dynamax, where it's not broken and competitive, but also fun to use. And they give us tiny little stupid hats. I don't think I ever used Terrestrialization that much in the story, and especially in the post game, because I just didn't need to use it. I could beat every trainer without it. And it's not fun to use either. It's like you just change your appearance ever so slightly. It just gives you a top hat, basically. And it's funny in the beginning, but then it gets old, and then you can look at your Pokemon and you're like, man, I wish it could just be Mega Evolution. Z-moves or Megas were cool because it felt like you were getting like a superpower almost. Like Z-moves are this just cool ultimate like ability, whereas Megas was this Super Saiyan form. It was sick. It felt anime-esque. But yeah, that's enough of my rant, but let's move on to the next hot take. Now this one is dangerous territory, but frankly, I don't care, so I'm gonna say it. Mewtwo is severely, heavily overrated. Listen, when I say overrated, I'm not saying he's a bad Pokemon. I actually really like Mewtwo, but I think all of us can agree that Mewtwo's severely overrated. First and foremost, why does he have 2 Megas? Why does he deserve Megas more than the actual box legendaries of the freaking game? And on top of that, people still have this misconception of Mewtwo being this all-powerful, strongest legendary Pokemon, when that's not the case. That statement of Mewtwo being the most strongest, powerful legendary Pokemon, quote-unquote, is severely outdated because Kanto thought there were only 151 Pokemon in the world. There was no proof at the time that there were more than 151 Pokemon, or 150, I guess you could say. Keep in mind that Mewtwo has never beaten his original version, Mew, because Mew contains the original DNA, whereas Mewtwo is only a copy of that. He will never match Mew's level. And we know Mew was the foundation of life that created all the other Pokemon we know today, and that was created by, you guessed it, the Creation Trio and Arceus. So no, Mewtwo isn't the most powerful Pokemon, and no, he shouldn't have deserved 2 Megas, especially when it isn't even his own game. And on top of that, he is so broken with those 2 Megas. Now, I will make the exception. If you guys like Shadow Mewtwo, then you guys are chill. You guys are cool, actually, because I love Shadow Mewtwo because it actually adds more depth and lore to Mewtwo and actually expands on his character. So I love Shadow Mewtwo. If you guys love Shadow Mewtwo, you are completely valid. But in my opinion, Mewtwo's overrated. But remember, I still like Mewtwo. So for my 4th hot take, I'm just going to give you guys my favorite legendary Pokemon of all time, and that is Rayquaza, or Mega Rayquaza, it doesn't matter. I love dragons. I know, Rayquaza might be considered overrated in today's time, but I frankly just don't care. Dragons are cool, and I love the type of Chinese dragon they were going for with Rayquaza. And oh my gosh, that shiny is so good. I hope I've been cooking with all these opinions because I'm just now realizing I need at least 7 to pass. So, yeah, that's just now hitting me. Now, on the topic of legendaries, why don't I just give you guys my favorite mythical as well? My favorite mythical Pokemon is Shaman. Okay, I know that might be crazy. There's Darkrai, there's freaking Cresselia. Actually, I think Cresselia's a legendary, my bad. But my point is there's probably a lot more popular mythical Pokemon out there. And frankly, they're probably pretty cool. But in my opinion, the reason I love Shaman so much is because he's just so cute. I love and adore Shaman. Now, the Sky form, I don't really like too much. I like its base form. I'm talking about its base form. I just want to grab it and squish it and just cuddle with it. Oh my gosh, it's so adorable. I would literally faint if I saw Shaman in real life. Now, honorable mentions go to Marshmallow and Darkrai, obviously, and Zeraora, because I love Zeraora. But Shaman is it's just so cute, man. That's the reason, okay? I don't care if you guys hate me for that one. It's just adorable. Now, for my 6th hottest take, Pokemon Legends Arceus is my favorite Pokemon game of all time, and it's not freaking close. Now, I didn't think this was a hot take, but apparently it is, and people genuinely don't like Legends Arceus, which is wild to me. I think Legends Arceus was amazing and phenomenal at that. People were complaining about Pokemon being too stale and too basic and practically the same formula over and over and over again. And then we finally got something different, and then people were complaining about it. I don't understand that. I loved going out in the wild and encountering new Pokemon. It was just so fun. And the fact that you could actually visibly see shiny Pokemon, there were so many quality of life changes to Legends Arceus and so many new changes that were just fun and engaging. And being able to find new cool Pokemon that were reminiscent of the old Pokemon, like Hisuian Braviary, Blastoise, all those guys, it was just so amazing. A lot of my viewers were probably thinking it was going to be X and Y because that was my very first Pokemon game and also my favorite region, but Legends Arceus to this day is my favorite Pokemon game of all time. I love it to death. And not only that, but going into Scarlet and Violet thinking it was going to be like Legends Arceus and have that amazing open world, man, I was severely disappointed. Now, for my 7th hottest take, you guys might not all agree with me on this, but you might find this a lot more agreeable and you might give me the benefit of the doubt and call my opinion valid. The Pokemon XY series overall is the best Pokemon anime series of all time. Now, I'm not going to go into too much depth because I talked about Pokemon XY in the past and I have tons of videos on it, so if you guys want to check those out after watching this video, you can. But from the camera work and stellar animation to the amazing development between all of the different characters, and of course the introduction to Bond Phenomenon and Mega Evolution, it was just so peak. Not much more to say than that. Now, for my 8th hottest take, this one I don't know if it's controversial or not, so I'm just gonna go out and say it. The Pokemon I Choose You movie is my favorite Pokemon movie of all time. Now, I know a lot of you guys have preferred the first Pokemon movie over the I Choose You movie, but I just love the I Choose You movie, man. There's just so much more emotion and just so much beautiful animation in the fight scenes, by the way. And not only that, but seeing Pikachu and Ash just bond over the course of that film, as well as finding Charmander in that story, and then Scar meeting them, and then just oh, it's so cool. And on top of that, Marshadow coming in that fight we got with Pikachu and Marshadow, Ho-Oh Feather, dude. Oh, it was so good. And we can't forget about Pikachu using Thunderbolt and then just clearing everything in its path. It was so dope. And of course, the Ash death scene. Man, so many emotions during that movie, and to this day, my favorite Pokemon movie of all time. Now, for my 9th hottest Pokemon take, I'm just going to be giving you my favorite Super Legendary of all time, and it's going to be, drumroll please. Yeah, I'm not adding drumroll sound effects. I'm too lazy for that. It's going to be Metagross. Now, my love for Metagross has never actually, I don't actually know why I love Metagross so much. I think obviously its design is amazing, and its Mega is even cooler, but I just like it. There's just not really much to say. I also like Goodra. That's a close second. And I know that's going to be a hot take. But that's not part of this list, okay? Don't count that one. Don't count that one. But Metagross, to me... I think it's because I love Steven a lot. I love Steven and Metagross's dynamic. And I love that he has a Metagross in Oraz, obviously. But I don't know, man. He's just really cool. And I prefer him over all the other, Super Legendaries. Not saying they're bad, obviously. But they're really great. But they're not Metagross level. They're not Steven level, bro. Now, for my final Pokemon hot take, ready for this? The Pokemon manga compared to the games and anime, with the exception being the Black and White games and the XY series, overall has a better story than the anime and the games of Pokemon. Now, basically what I'm saying in dumb terms is that the Pokemon manga is better in terms of story overall compared to the games and the Pokemon anime, with the exception being the XY series anime and the Black and White games. Now, the reason I say this is because the Pokemon manga compared to the games and anime has a lot more stakes. There's actual death in the Pokemon manga. There's blood, there's graphic content, right? But there's also lots of things that just make the Pokemon manga still feel like Pokemon. There's still the comedy, the cheesiness, and stuff like that. And although the manga compared to the games and anime, they changed the story a little bit between the regions, it still fits, and they make their own original story. And you get fights because of that. You get fights like Zygarde versus Ultra freaking Necrozma. And let me just say, that fight is so good. And I know you might be saying, oh, blood, gore, all that kind of stuff doesn't make a story good, and you're right about that, but in terms of Pokemon, it just makes it feel a lot more realistic. Like, what's stopping Lysander or Lucamine from just punching the MC in the face, because at the end of the day, he's an 11-year-old, and they're a villain, so why should they care? If the anime and games actually portrayed a realistic side to Pokemon, there would have been so much more death in Pokemon, and I mean by a landslide. Like, obviously there's death in Pokemon, but it's kind of hidden between lots of text and just a lot of, perspective. And they give lots of personality to Callum and Gold and older MCs compared to the games where they don't even really talk. The Pokemon manga is basically, hey, I'm just a more realistic side of Pokemon. But yeah, that's just my opinion. But overall, did I cook? Did I get the badge of a chef? Or did I fail miserably? Let me know in the comments below how many I got out of 10 in your eyes, of course. And just like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. And I'll make more content like this one. So I'll see you guys in the next video. That's all Yuki wrote.